Hi, and a very good afternoon to you all. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, there are 27 million dwellings in the United Kingdom. And, I think it's really shameful that people like Kay Burley came out on Sky News this morning and said, in a sombre voice, Britain is burning. Let's put that into perspective, and the reason why we're going to do that is because this is what's going wrong with journalism on a whole. It is being hysterified out of proportion. There are 27 million homes in the UK. 40 of them fell subject to a slight heat wave, which is regularly occurring, as you'll see in this video. But why they are playing it up as much as what they are is because they want to drive the climate agenda that is caused by mankind through emitting too much CO2 into the atmosphere. It's shameful, really shameful, when people like Kay Burley come out on mainstream media and connect with the masses, nearly 65-70 million people in the UK. This is something we've seen going on globally, but more importantly recently, because this heat wave has been hitting a lot of European countries, to mention just a few: Spain, Greece, etc., France. It's hit a lot of these countries. We have to live with these things. What we should be thinking ourselves lucky is that we are getting blessed with some nice weather. It's not uncommon, like they want us to believe. They think that this is a new thing. That what really annoys me is that they would usually use Michael Mann's hockey stick climate temperate of the last 100 years of temperature, and it's so far from reality, because what is reality is that we regularly have these things. We had heat waves in 1995 in the United Kingdom or Britain, which were less than what we had in 1911. Let me show you. So I quickly found this on a quick search. You can see that 1911 we had temperatures of 36.7 degrees Celsius. And yesterday I was looking at my thermometer. It was creeping up in my home, and I think the highest I saw it as 38 degrees Celsius. That's here in central England, Coventry. But I witnessed, when I looked at mainstream media, and for my sins I did that, journalists holding thermometers up, measuring the temperature, and they're in front of millions of people watching these journalists hold the temperature up and read it off their little thermometers, saying that it's this temperature, it's that temperature. But that's not the way you measure temperature scientifically. You have to have a Stevenson screen, and I never saw one shown on TV yesterday or the day before or even today. And sadly, they do not support what they are saying with scientific evidence. They say we popped in the United Kingdom here at 40.3 degrees Celsius, and the only thing I can say is, where was that proof? Where was the proof where you opened the Stevenson screen on the thermometer and showed the temperature? There was no account of that. But even if there was, give nature a little credit. We do experience it, warm temperatures. We experienced warm temperatures in 1911. We experienced temperatures or heat waves in 1923, 1932. We experienced it in 1933, 1957, 1959, And it goes on. 1976, 1990, 1995, 2003, and of course it goes on. Point is, we do have in the year sometimes a period of warm weather, and it has been ostracized and made out to be abnormal. And the reason why that is because it is supporting, in this time that we're at right now, the hedge fund of climate people that are preserving, or climate elitists that are trying to pursue, an avenue where they can fleece the taxpayers out of lots and lots of money. It's wrong. The truth is being reported incorrectly, and it is being reported with hysteria to support, their case for man is responsible for climate change. How many times on this channel have we showed you, the efforts that we've went through to map the actual carbon in our atmosphere? How much is actually responsible for the changing of climate due to man's input on the CO2 that he has emitted into this atmosphere? Let's have a quick look. And right before your eyes is man's contribution to climate change. As you can see, it's negligible. But they don't want you to believe that. What they want you to believe is that smidgen of CO2 that is responsible for man putting into the atmosphere far outweighs, the oceans, the land that naturally emit CO2 into the atmosphere, causes more of an influence. But you know what, we can just admit that red pie chart with a little smidgen of yellow there and just look at the actual atmospheric trace gas CO2 in our atmosphere by focusing on that blue point. How can CO2 have an impact if its total concentration in the atmosphere is 0.4% to start with? How can we be altering our climate and our earth when that is the total amount, including man and oceans and land's contribution to the atmospheric gas of CO2? Without CO2 on our planet, plants die. What NASA have found over the last 15 to 20 years is that, the deserts are turning slightly green, which is an indication that they are recovering probably from, probably 100,000 year cycle. What does that mean? Let me show you. It means the whole thing is a fraud. The whole thing is an elitist hedge fund designed to extract money for no work off the working class people around the world. See, and this is not what they're ever going to show you, is that we have regularly gone through periods of time where CO2 has risen in our earth. But if we go on what the mainstream academia teach, man was never around over 100,000 years, according to, their researchers. And that's a debate for another day. But as you can see, through the 450,000 year chart that I'm showing you, that CO2 has risen and declined, and has done that in a regular pattern every 100,000 years. This is what is known even to the mainstream organisations such as NASA as the Milankovitch cycle. This is what regulates the temperatures on our planet. And when climate rises, as you can see, so does CO2. And when climate decays in temperature, CO2 follows that. And it's a regular cycle. And what they're doing is cherry picking their data to justify their hedge fund making it out, successful, so that they can pocket billions and billions and even trillions of pounds off the backs of our sweat, of the likes of me and you. Just like the amounts of CO2 emitted by man into the atmosphere, let alone the total amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, regardless of being 0.4%, you work it out for yourselves. Is Britain burning based on the fact that 40 households perished when there are 27 million households in the United Kingdom or Britain? You work it out for yourselves how much exaggeration and hysteria is being created over a couple of days of nice weather. Guys, link down there in the description if you'd like to support the observatory. It's entirely up to you. I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.